Hey Stitcherinos, how's it going? I am finally back, if you can believe that. It seems like I don't post as frequently as I used to, and maybe it's just the time of year, whatever. I'm not going to make apologies for it. It is what it is. In Minnesota, our summers last about 3.5 hours, and so you just have to get out and enjoy the weather while you can. So I enjoyed my summer. This fall, I went with my mom on a great Viking river cruise. We went to Helsinki, Finland, and then we got on a Viking river cruise in St. Petersburg, Russia, and we sailed down the Volga, the Neva, and there's one other river, and I'm not going to be able to think of the name of it. But anyway, we sailed from St. Petersburg to Moscow in Russia during the fall, and it was stunning. It was just the colors were at peak when we were there, sailing down the river, and it was absolutely gorgeous, and it was really, really neat to see that lifestyle and that country and to see how far they've come, honestly. Not that I ever saw it prior to this, but capitalism is alive and well in Russia. So we had a fantastic time. My mom and I always do. We're going to have another adventure coming up this spring as well, so I'll keep you posted on that. But I haven't been doing a whole lot of cross stitch, and that's part of the reason I haven't updated. I feel like if I don't have cross stitch to share, then I shouldn't make a video. I've been doing all kinds of other crafty things, so I enjoy seeing what other people work on. So I thought, well, I have just a very little bit of cross stitch to show, and I'll start with that. And if you're not interested in the other things I've been working on, which is knitting and sewing and quilting, among just a few other things, if you're not interested in seeing that stuff, then you can check out, and that's totally fine. So I'll start off with my cross stitch. I've got a couple of FFOs. This one is, I don't believe I've shown this one, and I don't have the back finished yet, but this is my Sally Spencer, completely finished and stretched, and it turned out really cute. I really, really love how this turned out, and I put the initials of all of the stitchers in here that I knew of that were participating in the Mustang Sally stitch along. So this one's finally done. I'm sure you guys are probably sick to death of seeing all the Sally Spencer posts, but it turned out great. I loved it. It's a fun stitch. I just love this red bird. Love it. The next thing that I did is, this is an FFO. Jen from Jen Stitching Niche participated. Well, it was a part of a sampler exchange that I did with Kathy Krause, Theresa, KittenStitcher, and Jen from Jen Stitching Niche, and the four of us did a sampler exchange. So this is the one that Jen from Jen Stitching Niche made for me, and one of my favorite things about it is that she did all of our initials. So there's Kathy, Jennifer, Theresa, and me. This alphabet, by the way, is stitched over one. Jen did a beautiful job on this. Oh shoot, somebody's going to ask me the designer. I'll put it, I'll either post it here or I'll put it in the show notes. I can't remember. This was tricky to frame. I do my own framing. I buy my frames from Custom Frame Solutions online, and they come like I measure what I need, and I've got a little bit of a framing history, so but I do my own. But needless to say, this was tricky to stretch. I've never had to stretch one that's on the bias before. What was difficult about it was, instead of like you know, if you've ever done any needlework stretching, when you pull that over, that's the part that stretches. Well, when it's on the bias, it stretches in different places because you're on like the diagonal. So it was really tricky to frame. But I got it done. I think it looks decent. I still have to put the backing on it, but yeah, it turned out great. I love it. I love the frame I chose. Yeah, I really, really like it. So that one's also done. The other two things that I finished that are FFOs, I finished this little pillow. This is from Samplers Not Forgotten. And this is called, it was a limited edition kit called the Garden Urn Pin Keep. And it came with the silks and the fabric. It came with this fabric and this little wool heart. So, oops, I got a piece of hair on it. And I did the finishing myself. I put rickrack, you can probably see it a little better on this side. I put rickrack in around it. So what I did is I just kind of made a sandwich. I put all the right sides together, so this and this with right sides together, and then I put the rickrack in between, and I just sewed all four corners. I was exact as I could, so I got my rickrack in there as evenly as I could. And then you make the little slit in the back. You separate the two layers real carefully. You make a little slit, and that's where you stuff it, and then you sew it up, and then you sew that wool heart over the little seam, and it turns out great. So I really love how this one turned out. I stuffed it with sawdust. Oh, that's another interesting story. I am a convert to sawdust. I've got the big tub of the crushed walnut shells, or the lizard litter. The sawdust, I don't know that I'll ever use lizard litter again. I even tried stuffing it with like a hybrid of lizard litter and sawdust, and I don't like the lizard litter. The lizard litter makes it feel more like a beanbag. So when you set it up, like all the stuff, because it's heavy, it wants to run to the bottom, and it's more like a beanbag unless you really cram it full. This is, there's just something about it. It holds its shape, so you can set it down. There's not things shifting inside. It just has a nice feel to it. And I don't know. I am a convert to sawdust. I will always stuff it with sawdust. So I got mine from my brother, who's a woodworker. But I'm sure you could go to any like cabinet shop and ask them, you know, bring them a big Ziploc bag and say, you know, could I have some sawdust, please? And they would be happy to oblige. So so that's the first one. I really like how that one turned out. And then this one, and one other note on sawdust: stuff it until you feel like you can't stuff it anymore. Pack it in the corners, really, really pack it, and then pack it a little more. Like get 2 or 3 more tablespoons in there if you can. It's really got to be tight because it does like compress and settle together. So this one I feel like maybe I could have stuffed it a little bit more, but it's still holding its shape. But this is from Chessie and Me. This was one of her little kits. Stash Sisters. Is that right? Stash Sisters? Carolyn she works at the Attic. I think, yeah, she's Stash Sisters. It was talking about these kits in a couple videos back, and these are so cute, all done. I think this is Christmas Cabin. I think that's what this one is called. It was just a really cute and fun little stitch. It came with the silks, it came with the backing fabric, it even came with chenille to go around the outside. I didn't use the chenille. I'm not a big chenille fan. I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of the chenille trim. I don't know why. I don't know. But anyway, I did mine with this vintage rickrack that I had in my stash. And again, I did it the same way. It has the little velvet on the back that came in the kit. And I think this kit with the silks and the backing fabric and the chenille, I think it was $32. I got mine at the Country Sampler. I don't know if they have any left, but I got it last year, so there's a good chance that they would still have one. So that's this one. And you can see there's some specialty stitches in the trees there. And the door has eyelet stitches. yeah, it was just a really fun little stitch, and it was silks. So that's my other FFO. I'll go on to my whips here. So I've got 2 works in progress that I actually did any work on. The first one is Plum Street Samplers Mary 2. So there's that one. I took a tip from Carolyn again from Stash Sisters, oddly enough. It's the second time she's come up. She did hers on Weeks Dye Works Aztec Red, and I loved how it looked. So I didn't iron this or anything, but I'll hold it up for you. So that's how far I am. I brought this on my Russia trip, and I worked on it on the ship. This is on 40 count, so that's a lot smaller than what I'm used to doing. You can see the face on the snowman there, but it doesn't show up super dark. But those are some tiny stitches. So that's that one. So I've just got, here, I'm off camera here. I've just got the sleigh and the reindeer to do. Otherwise I've got, so it's half done. The other one that I'm working on is a La-Dee-Da Witch. So I pulled this out this fall and I worked on this a little bit. And I'll show you my progress on that one. So I've got half of her skirt, her and half of her skirt pretty much finished there. So that one's going well. That's a fun one. I'm stitching this one with the Sulky thread. I don't know if you guys have tried the Sulky, I think it's 10 weight, 12 weight, let me look here, 12 weight. 12 weight Sulky. It comes on a spool like this. So it's all one color, and you just need one strand to give you the look of 2 strands. So it's got pretty decent coverage, I think. I don't know, what do you think? Yeah, I don't know. Some people are really fussy about coverage. I don't know, I think it's a 32 count fabric, and yeah, it's going well. It's easy. It's nice to just like take a bunch off the roll, snip it, put it on your needle, and just go. I love kind of doing that mindless one color stitching once in a while. It's very fun. So that's all I have for cross stitch per se. Now I have a bunch of other things. I looked at my Instagram at all of the things I've been doing over the past 6 months since I've chatted with you. And so I thought, you know what, even if it's not cross stitch, I'm bringing it up and I'm gonna just show you everything I've been working on. And I'll just go ahead and start. Now one thing I am gonna share is I have a gadget that I found. I went to the Wisconsin Quilt Expo this summer in Madison, Wisconsin, and I found something called a neck light. And this is really cool. So it's just a square box. These are LED lights, and they are bright. They are very, very bright. In fact, I'll turn it on. You can see how bright that is. Okay, so you put this on, or if you don't want to put it over your head, there's magnets on each end. So you can just go like this. There's also this little slidey thing, and you can just slide it to whatever length you want it. And then what I do is I kind of turn it downward a little bit, and then I flip it on. Well, you can't really see, but yeah, well, you get the idea. Here, I'll move it up for the sake of... Normally I would wear it lower, but you hold your work in front of you, and it just lights everything right up. And it's not in your eyes, but it's just shining down at your work. Now this wasn't cheap per se. You would think, oh gosh, it's just a piece of plastic with some, you know, batteries in it, and how expensive could it possibly be, right? Well, it works really well, and I love the little magnets. It was $40, but I use it a lot, and it's super handy, and it's not cumbersome, and it's not like you have to get the adjustment right, or you have to have it on your left side, or you know, whatever. It's super, super handy. So I'll put a link to these. Well, hi, Train. He's gonna, oh, he wants the string. Can you see his paw there? Did you want to come and say hi? Did you want to say hi to everybody, huh? Yeah. You haven't said hello in my videos in a long time, have you? No, you haven't. So, but I'll put a link to the neck light in my show notes so that you can see. So it's been it was a good purchase. Like I said, it's a little bit spendy for the size of it and everything, but gosh, I use it all the time. Any place where there's low light or even, you know, stitching or knitting or whatever in the car, it lights it right up. So that's really cool. Are you just gonna settle in? I'm gonna move you back here, my love. There you go. Okay. I'm gonna go on to knitting. So if you remember last time, I was mastering all of the dishcloths and everything. I wanted to just get my tension down. I wanted to get my, you know, just the whole process down. Knitting, purling, getting into some specialty things. And anytime I have something that I'm questioning with my knitting, I just get on YouTube and I look it up. I just, you know, if there's a weird code like K2TOG, I'll get on and go, what is a K2TOG? And I put it in YouTube and there's somebody showing me how to do it, which stands for knit two together. So I'm kind of proud of my knitting. So I'm going to show you from the dishcloths. I moved on and this was my very first project after the dishcloths. So I made this thing. This is called the Age of Brass and Steam Neckerchief. Okay, and it's meant to just be worn. This is how I wear it underneath my winter coat. So I just put it under my coat to cover up, you know, like when you zip up, there's always this area that's open. So, and if I fill up my tank with gas and it's cold out, I can pull it up like this. Or if I want to rob a bank, I can just, you know, pull this up and I can pop in and rob the bank. And, you know, or if I want to hold up a little old lady on the street and rob her of her groceries, there we go. I'm kidding, you know I wouldn't do that. So yeah, this is my neckerchief and I'm really proud of it. And it turned out really well. I think, and I loved this color. This magenta is one of my favorite colors. Love, love, love this color. So it turned out great. And I blocked it where you buy like these mats and then you have to, this is wool, it's merino wool, which is my favorite thing ever also. That's that's what I'm all into this 6 months, merino wool. That's what I'm all into this 6 months. Okay, that was my Theresa moment. That was for you, Theresa. So anyway, neckerchief, that was my first thing. Okay, then I liked that yarn so well that I went on, I bought another ball of it in the same dye lot, and I knitted this thing called the Saroyan Shawl. And actually it's more of a scarf. But can you see the pretty detail? Isn't that pretty? It's like this leaf pattern. Let me see if I can, I'll put it on the back of this. I'll put it on this black background and then you'll really be able to see the leaf pattern. There. Isn't that pretty, you guys? I just fell in love with this pattern and it wasn't all that hard. And so this is how I wear it. I just like fling it around me. And of course I tuck it in a little better than this. By the way, I'm wearing this Christmas sweater because I'm volunteering today at the Sartell Community Center. My little ladies who I made the bags for last year, they're having their Christmas party. So I'm volunteering over there with Opportunity Matters. But anyway, so this is just how I wear my little scarf. Of course I, you know, put it together better than this, but it's so soft and it's so nice and it turned out so nice and I can't believe I'm a knitter. I don't know what finally clicked in this pea brain of mine, but I just practiced and practiced and practiced. I think I did like 7 dishcloths and 3 hats that were just like simple knit stitch and I figured it out and I just went down the knitting rabbit hole. So I made this one and then I liked that one so well. I loved the pattern so well and it was so much fun to do that I did another one in blue with a little different weight, another Saroyan shawl in light blue, and this will be a Christmas gift for my sister-in-law. Oops, that was my neck light. So yeah, so I made another one for her for Christmas. So, and you can see it just, isn't it pretty? I love it. So that was my knitting, and then this fall I saw, I thought this would look so cute in like a dough bowl or in a display or something, and I used these colors because, so this is a little acorn that I made just to see if I could do it, and I could. I was just, I don't know, and look at, even the top has some fancy stitches and stuff. I still can't believe I'm doing this, people. And I think what clicked in my head is someone said, look, it's just knits and purls. That's all you can do. Those are the 2 stitches. Everything else is a combination of those 2. And if you don't know how to do it, you look it up on YouTube. This was a great project to start with. I'll put a link for this on here. It was a free pattern. It's called The Age of Brass and Steam Neckerchief. Weird name, I know. This had an online YouTube tutorial that showed you how to get it started and how to do it. So, I mean, get the comfort down, like where you get your tension right and everything, by doing just dishcloths. And like I said, dishcloths, the dishes don't care if they're not perfect. That's a good way to practice. So if you're contemplating knitting, just go for it. Just keep practicing. You can do it. Okay, my last knitting project, and I hope I don't offend anybody with this. It's funny. It's meant to be funny, and it's nature, okay? So, and this probably is not going, it's a bummer, but it's fine. I've learned a lot. So I jumped into the world of 2-color knitting because my friend Amy said, oh, you can totally do 2-color knitting. That's like the next step. So I'm like, okay, I'll try it. So I saw this pattern. She had actually stitched it for a white elephant gift at her boyfriend's family Christmas. And it was funny. And I have, of course, in Minnesota, there's a lot of hunters. My brother is a hunter, and I wanted to make him a lucky hunting hat. So I started it, and I'll show you what the problem is with it, but I started it, and so this is my hat. It's, sorry, I have a hair in my mouth, or a piece of merino wool, which is my favorite thing. Okay, I got it. This is what I'm knitting for my brother for Christmas. Yes, they're doing what you think they are. So I wanted to make him like a lucky hunting hat, and it's going beautifully. I'm doing, it looks like this. I mean, I'm doing a good job. Okay, this is the little work I did down here, and it's fun. It's very fun, and I'm learning new techniques. Here's the problem. Andre the Giant could wear this hat. I mean, look at this thing. It's like enormous. I don't know how my brother is ever going to wear it, you know. I mean, it's insane. So it's enormous. And is there anything I can do to fix it? Maybe. But probably not, because it's really, really huge. It is wool, but even I had Michelle, Farm Girl, was over yesterday. I messed my hair up, and she was like, ooh, this is really big, because she was like, oh, it's wool, you'll be amazed what you can do when you wash it and block it. She's like, Gary can shrink anything, which I thought was kind of funny, but I don't know if this is going to be salvageable. So I might just scrap it for this year, and I might just get some different, here's a tip. If you do get patterns from Ravelry, there's a lot of people that leave comments, which I didn't know. My friend just sent me the PDF for the pattern on Ravelry, and I just printed off the pattern. I didn't read any of the show notes or the comments, and not show notes, comments on that Ravelry page, and that's a good tip. I didn't realize everybody on there said 144 stitches for this size hat. I mean, that's just way too big. There were some people that took out a whole, you do 4 of these little repeats, and there were some people that just took out like a whole repeat of the whole deer, and then they just had like 2 trees together on one side or whatever. So I don't know. Am I sad about it? A little bit, but I'll use the yarn for something else, or I might just take it out and maybe I'll do it for next year. My brother doesn't watch my video podcast, so. And the other thing that's neat about this hat is it's supposed to be reversible. So what you do, if you notice that blue yarn that I had, that's called a Provisional Cast-On. So this is what the hat looks like all together. You start knitting from the middle. So I'm actually knitting like this one hat, and I'm working my way up. And then when you finish that one, you go back to the middle, you take out that blue strand of yarns, and then you have live working loops right here, and then you stitch this side of the hat. And then when it's finished, you tuck one inside the other so it's reversible. So if you're going to church and you don't want your pastor to see your lucky hunting hat, then you flip it to this side out where it's just a deer. Or if you're hunting, you wear your lucky hunting hat and you flip it to that side out. So that was my intention. And I was going to do these mirror opposites. I was going to, like you saw that the hunting part was mostly orange with brown accents. This was going to be mostly brown with orange accents. So I was going to do them like mirror opposites. And then he could just flip whichever side he wanted out. So that was my last knitting project. And like I said, I was going to give it to him for Christmas this year. That's not going to happen, and that's okay. I'll maybe do it for next year. Next thing I did, here's another thing that I've worked on. I made another one of these zip tray pouches from Aneela Hoey. The only thing I have to do is the handwork of stitching this binding down, which is kind of fussy. You have to get into this little right angle area and stitch it down, so I've been putting it off, but this is her pattern. I add this handle just because it's easier to carry around that way. Otherwise, her pattern does not call for a handle, but I always add a handle and I make it the same color as the binding. So that's that. These zip tray pouches are really handy for quilting supplies or whatever. You know, you just zip it up and you take it along with you. This has some tape measure fabric, and this is just kind of some cute little stuff I found at Joann's that matched it. So I made another one of those. I did this. I was at a quilt retreat, and this was a lady brought her Cricut cutter, and she did these. So this is actually paint on canvas, but she used her Cricut cutter. I don't know if you can read that. Procrastinate. Working on a craft project when you should be doing laundry or dishes or homework. It's kind of cute. Who hasn't procrastinated, right? So that I made, and it was really cool because what you did with the Cricut cutter is you actually made a template, and then you laid the template on your, this is just like canvas or linen, or it's just kind of a canvasy type fabric. And then what you did is you laid that template on there, and then you took like stenciling paint and you just dabbed it on there really, really good. And then you pulled the template off after it dried. And this is what you're left with, which is really cool. So she did this with her Cricut cutter, and that was really fun. What am I going to do with it? I don't know yet. I might make a wall hanging for my future sewing room or whatever. So that's another thing I worked on. The ladies I'm going to volunteer, or the ladies that I volunteer with, remember, I don't know if you remember last year, like I mentioned, I'll insert a picture. I made little knitting bags for them. So I get together with them about once a month, and we make hats on those round knitting looms, like the Nifty Knitters. You know what I'm talking about? And they're a round loom. And so we get together and we make those hats. And last year I made them knitting bags. Well, this year I found this little pattern, and I had a bunch of fabric left over that matched each of their project bags. So I made them these little project bags, which are just kind of cool. And I'm going to fill them with little goodies before I give it to them for Christmas. But it's just a little zippered bag. They're not lined or anything. They're not real thick. They're just kind of neat little bags. So I thought, well, they could keep them in their knitting bag to hold like their little hook that they flip things with, or a scissor or whatever. So I made this one. This was the Wonder Woman one. So that one is for one of them. This one is the Disney Princesses. They love the Disney Princesses. And then this one is Minnie Mouse. So it was kind of cool how this is actually the back of the fabric that's showing through right there, but it's funny how she just ended up right in the middle of it there. That wasn't planned. It was just serendipity. So I did those, and then let's see. I made another one of these. So do you remember the little felted ornaments that I made last Christmas? This was the same company, but it was a cute little turkey, and you stuff it and you stitch it. They're so cute. These kits are distributed by AC Moore, and they're either under the brand name, I found them under both brand names, either Bright Minds or I think Nicole is the other brand that I found them under. But AC Moore is the distributor for them. They're super cheap. They come with absolutely everything you need to make them. They take maybe an hour each, and they're so cute when they're all done. All the holes are pre-made where you stitch it together. It's very, very slick, and they're very fun to make. So I found that one, so I stitched that one up, the Thanksgiving one. I did some more work on this. If you remember, Theresa gifted me this really cool kit last year at Market, and I've got it, all the felting pretty much done. I've got to do a little more embroidery. There's a little embellishment, like a lazy daisy stitch I have to put here, and I still have to sew the black stripes, embroider the black stripes on all the bees. It's supposed to make a needle roll. Jen and Theresa have both made these. It's supposed to make a needle roll. And I've got all the stuff cut out for it. Sorry about the glare. And then it folds up so it looks like, let's see. Do they have a picture of it? I'll fold it up. Let me look. Maybe they don't. Nope, they don't. But anyway, it comes with, it's a sewing accessory case. But I know I'm not going to use a sewing accessory case, and I don't want it to just sit and collect dust. So I have another idea for what I'm going to do with this, but it's not going to be an accessory case. So more to come on that. I'll leave that hanging for you. And then the last thing I have is just a little bit of haul that I got that's not really cross-stitch related. Is that what I have? I guess that's all I've been doing, you guys. Not much. Oh, I also made a quilt for my nephew, my new nephew, Mark. And I'll insert a picture of the quilt that I made him here. So that was a really fun and easy quilt to make. The fabrics are all Eric Carle fabrics. Carle is spelled C-A-R-L-E, and it looks like Carly, sort of, but he's the guy that did the Very Hungry Caterpillar. There's a whole line of fabrics with his artwork on it. And it was just a fun and easy, that quilt was super duper easy to make. So I did that one, and that was really fun. I'm working on a new tree skirt for my Christmas tree, and I have the top all done, and so it's a square tree skirt, which I think is kind of cool, and it looks like that right over here when it's all done. So I'm at the point where, and I'll show you how it kind of buttons together. So, like here, this picture. So I'm at the point where, so here's another close-up. So it's like a big square, and you put like some buttons and some button loops on it. So it's really a neat little pattern. This is from the Empty Bobbin Sewing Studios. It's called Wonderland. It's a Christmas tree skirt. It's kind of a scrappy looking thing. I use vintage fabrics that I found, reproduction vintage fabrics. So right now it just looks like a big square, but you'll get the idea. So this is what I have to do now, the next step. Boy, I know I'm not doing a good job of showing this. Maybe I can move my, well, you get the idea. These are the fabrics. So they're vintagey looking fabrics. Aren't they fun? So those are my fabrics. And so now the next step is I have to, this is the backing that I picked for it, which is also, I mean, it matches one of these fabrics almost perfectly. See the little candy treats there? So this was a really good piece of backing to get for it because it coordinates so well. But what I have to do is, this is just a little wider than the width of this. So I have to do what's called, and they have a picture of it too here. Excuse me, train. On the back, you have to actually put a strip of fabric in there, and to make it big enough for the tree skirt. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make like a bunch of, I have a bunch of this fabric left over in strips. And these are supposed to be wonky, by the way. If you're looking at that and going, oh, I don't think those are straight necessarily. They're not supposed to be. So they're supposed to be wonky. So, but I have a bunch of those wonky strips left over. So I'm just going to make like a bunch of wonky strips and then have them sort of like, you know, goofy stacked coins as my strip so that there'll be some interest on the back too. So I'm going to make a strip maybe this wide of all of the fabrics, and then it'll be like it is in the picture here, like it shows here. So this green strip will be all of my scrap wonky fabrics, and then that'll go on the back. So nobody will even see it. So, but yeah, so this tree skirt is almost done. So the next step is getting the backing made, and then giving it to my quilter friend to quilt on her long arm. And I'll probably pick like a holly pattern or something like that. Or if they have candies, that might be cute too because of the candies. But I'll pick some design. So she'll quilt it, and then when I get it back, I have to take like a 9-inch plate, and I'll do that point where you know, make the hole and then put the binding on and add the buttons, and then it'll be done. So it won't be ready this Christmas, which is fine. But it's been a lot of fun. That's been a really fun project. Also, I've also got squares put together for a quilt that I'm making that will look like something like this when it's all done. And these are the colors I chose. So here's all the squares. So it's going to be a pink background with those fabrics. Aren't they fun? They're just, it looks like sherbet. That's a chamois fabric line, and just a pink Kona cotton in the background. I had, from trimming all of these, for those of you that are quilters, you know, like when you put these things together, you trim it and then you have like a little tiny square, half square triangle left over. I actually trimmed all those up. I saved them all and I trimmed them all up so I can put these together and make something kind of cool with them. I don't know what I'll make. Maybe a table runner or something, or a bag. I could do like a quilting bag or something too. That's the other thing I forgot to show you regarding my sewing endeavors. This quilting bag that I've got my faulty deer hat pattern, deer hunting pattern, I made this quilting bag. It cinches up like this. It's got a little handle that you grab, and it's got little pockets on the inside. It's all lined. So I don't know, can you see like my pockets in there? It's pockets all the way around. So yeah, and it turned out really cute. This pattern is from Kandou Crafts. I bought it on Etsy. I'll put a link to it in my notes. This is the large size, which is my favorite size. I've also made a small and a medium just to see what they all are. The large is my favorite, just because it fits my Andre the Giant hat just great. So it all fits in just great. The reason, so people are like, oh, why do you need a knitting bag? It's nice to keep it all contained. Lynda Jo, this is kind of funny, she said, you need a knitting bag that doesn't have a zipper because yarn and zippers are not friends. So that's what Lynda Jo says, and you know, she only speaks the truth. So I found this knitting pattern. I actually made one for her too. She got the small size one because I made all 3 sizes just so I knew what anyway, so she does a lot of socks and things like that. So she has the small one of these. I gifted the medium size one to a friend already, and I made 2 more actually, and those are all spoken for as well. So these are fun little knitting bags. I'll put the link in my show notes for those. And then the other quilting thing that I've got. So I know a lot of you were interested in my English paper piecing that I shared a while ago. I found this at my local quilt shop, one of my local quilt shops. The shop is called Sweetwater Cotton Shoppe, and they're in Paynesville, Minnesota, and she has just a really neat little shop. She also carries some cross-stitch stuff too, so I will put a link to her shop in my show notes. And you might be able to find, if there's an out-of-print Blackbird chart or something, you might be able to find it there because she's known more for her quilting stuff than her cross-stitch stuff. But I will show you her Etsy site, or put a link to her Etsy site. I don't know if this is up on her Etsy site or not, but I'll also put a phone number to the shop if this is something you're interested in purchasing. This is a kit called the Dilly Bag, the Sweet Sunday Dilly Bag. And if you want to give English paper piecing a try, this is a great way to do it. It's a kit, and it has everything in it that you need. So it's got all of the papers, it has all of I think this is a Layla Boutique fabric line, and they're super cute fabrics. It's really, really cute. It's got the fabric for the bag itself, for the lining, for the trim, this part up here. It's got the drawstring. It has everything in this little kit. This is an Australian designer, Treehouse Textiles. The Australians are kind of known for their expertise in English paper piecing. They have a lot of English paper piecing designers down there. Sue Daly is one of my favorites, and she has some great tutorials. And there's a certain knot that you should learn called the Knicker Knot, and I'll put a link to a video that shows you how to do that as well. So that's one little skill that you should learn, and you'll get better at it as time goes on. It's not really difficult. It just takes a little thought until you get the hang of it. Once you are into the swing of it, it's super easy. You don't think twice about it. But you make a knot at the beginning and at the end of each side. So like this, you would have a total of like 12 knots on one hexagon, because you make one at the beginning, you stitch along, and then you make one at the end, and so on and so forth. That just, if something breaks or splits apart, it's not going to cause the whole thing to unravel when you do it that way. So if you're interested in English paper piecing, this is a great little way to just kind of get your toes wet and see what you think of it. So other than that, I think I covered everything, which is, I hope it was entertaining. Like I said, I enjoy doing all different kinds of crafts, all kinds of different things. So I just decided I'm going to share everything on the site, and I'm not going to be apologetic about it, because I think a lot of you are the same way. I think everybody enjoys, if you're a creative person, you're kind of creative across the board. And even if it's something you're not interested or wouldn't necessarily make, it's still interesting to hear about it. So with that, I would love to wish you all a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I will most likely see you next year. I'll update you on my endeavors in the new year. Now that winter is here, I will have more time for crafting and hopefully for FlossTube and that kind of thing. So until next time, wishing you smooth stitching and no ripping. Take care, everybody. Bye.